It's their final line in the sand to defend.
You're right.
And so not only were they wanting to make sure that silver didn't surge above $50, what they wanted to do is they wanted to create a very specific impression in the minds of traders, because that's the most easy segment of the market for them to manipulate. And from a point of view of technical analysis, when you see anything, rise up to one of these technical barriers, bounce off of it and head down very sharply, that's considered to be about as bearish an indicator as you can possibly see in the world of technical analysis. And so it would basically send a very loud signal to all the people who are trading oriented and who basically know nothing about fundamentals, that we've seen some long-term top in the silver market, that we're seeing a repeat of 1980, or we're seeing a repeat of the crash of 2008. And then, of course, that's reinforced because they crank up the propaganda machine to full speed and, blast those headlines out at us. Bloomberg is writing that it's the biggest three-day drop in the silver market since 1983. And, of course, that was before today. They'll come out with an even juicier headline over the weekend.
Right.
So it's all, this massive propaganda war, all to create the idea that we've seen some sort of quote-unquote long-term top in the silver market, when, of course, like I say, there's no inventories, so nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I think I got it right and I got it wrong. I'll tell you how I got it right and I got it wrong. Did an article at SGTreport.com called $50 silver is the banker's Waterloo, meaning that that would be a price that they would need to defend. It's the banker's last stand, so to speak. But then I got it wrong a couple of weeks ago, and I talked to Bob Chapman because we talked about $50 silver really not being any logical resistance, because it means nothing to the Chinese and the Indians and all these new countries that are involved in the market. So I kind of got it right and wrong, and I got it really wrong to this extent. I mean, did you ever see it plummeting to this degree, Jeff?
Well, no, and I mean, in one respect, it frightens me. Certainly as somebody who would like to buy some silver right now, it's a wonderful feeling to be able to, walk up to my dealer and hopefully grab the last of his inventory before somebody else beats me to it. But on the other hand, as you know, and as we've talked about before, I have a very strong fear that we're about to see another confiscation episode in the silver market, much like what took place in the United States in the 1930s. And so when I see such extreme and violent price action like this, it frightens me, because what will happen when silver plummets this low is that those same Asian societies you mentioned, the Chinese and the Indians who've been buying silver with both hands over the last year or so, they're going to ramp up their buying even further, and eat into these tiny inventories that remain, and will soon be exhausted. The other way to get some perspective on how little silver is in the world. The total amount of above-ground silver in the world on a per capita basis would work out to like less than 1/4 of an ounce per person. So, and that's basically the lowest amount that's been around for literally thousands of years.
Right.
And so, in that respect, we're already so close to an implosion in this market that when you see them drive the price down, that'll clean out inventories even faster. I ask myself, where is this leading? And the answer I come up with is confiscation.
Well, I'll tell you, though, they're throwing hundreds of millions of paper ounces at this market to do this to the price. And, according to the comics, they've got 33 million ounces of physical left, and the open interest hasn't declined. So the lower they drive the price, it's such a double-edged sword for them, because the more affordable it is for folks, and the more affordable it is for China, they're just going to buy it all up. I'm just almost at a loss of words. Why don't we talk a little bit about Ted Butler? You wanted to talk about a little witty article that he wrote about silver being a rare earth.
Well, it was actually a couple of months back, and, it was the first time I'd seen anybody characterize it in that manner, and so it was something that stuck with me. And basically what Ted was saying is, when people have been rushing to get into the rare earth sector over the last, half year or so, because, they're suddenly seeing that as a quote-unquote, scarce commodity with China threatening to hold back supply. What Ted wanted everybody to know is that if you're looking for rare earths, look no further than silver, and it's exactly what I was alluding to before about there being such a tiny amount of above ground silver in the world available to us on a per capita basis. The vast majority of the world, they don't have any at all. Just like we're not holding any rare earths. And so, if you're going to grab some rare earths, start with silver. And once you've got your quota of silver, then think about getting into those other stranger and even less transparent markets, because they're certainly not a place that amateurs should be, just diving into without some real background in that.
Right. Well, with the worldwide annual production of silver being somewhere in the neighborhood of 650 to 750 million ounces per year of physical silver, that's planet-wide, we're seeing hundreds of millions of ounces of silver, paper ounces, change hands on a daily basis, which I guess begs the question, Jeff, since they are in control because they can just manipulate the market, they can cheat, they can lie, they can steal, they can print paper out of thin air. Where do you see a bottom in this thing? Are you willing to make any predictions? Where do you see support?
No, I don't make predictions in these scenarios because we're already into insanity territory with how far it's fallen, and so I think it's reckless and simply foolish for people to try to make rational predictions in panic scenarios, because you're not dealing with rational behavior. And of course, on top of it not being rational behavior, it's also heavily manipulated behavior. So put the two together, and you just have to shrug your shoulders and say, who knows where this is going to stop. But like I say, I'm going to be trying to grab some more silver right away, because another thing people have to be aware of, when silver makes these violent plunges in price, it may look like a wonderful buying opportunity, but if your dealers are all cleaned out and the internet dealers are cleaned out and there's none to buy, silver could be $5 an ounce and it's not going to do you any good. And so people who are wondering how low it's going to go because they're looking to try to buy some silver at the bottom should think very carefully about trying to simply get some now, because there's so little around, and this lower price is going to stimulate demand radically, and you're going to find that one source after another is going to dry up unless you act sooner rather than later.
Well, as always, Jeff, we really appreciate your perspective. Thanks for your time. Thanks for checking in with us. And it's madness what's going on, and it's good to try to keep perspective and realize that we're all in this battle together against these banksters that have no respect for the rule of law and no respect for the integrity of the markets, and the whole market, in fact, is a joke. So I think the only way that we can fight back at this point is to buy more physical.
Thanks, Sean. And, if this will help people sleep a little bit easier at night, then, that's all I care about.
All right, we can check out your great articles over at bullionbullscanada.com. Good luck going to get your Canadian maples.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'll get off the line and see if I can get them.
All right, good luck. Bye.
Thanks, Sean. Bye-bye.
And guys, thanks to all of you for tuning in. And remember, what we're going through right now is as historic and volatile as anything that's ever been. And at the end of the day, we really truly are all in this thing together. And remember, when you're feeling the pain on these huge down days, you're not alone. We're all feeling it. And my hope is that we can all hang on so that when this thing turns, we can all start to feel euphoria again together. Have a great night. Have a great Friday. Have a fantastic weekend. And in the meantime, keep stacking. Good night.